This is Derek. He's going to be getting a talk on Microsoft Active Directory.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming in. I know that there was a little bit of a mishap with the scheduling and whatnot. I probably should have raised my hand when I looked at my phone and I didn't see my event on the phone. But anyway, we're here now. My name is Derek Melber. I do live in town, so I just drove down today. And so I do quite a bit of speaking throughout the years. I speak at RSA, I speak at Gartner, I speak at different events around the world. I feel pretty lucky about that. I've written quite a few books over the years, I think 16 over the last 25 years or so. Many of you may have this group policy resource kit on your desk if you're related to Active Directory. And then kind of as a joke, I pulled the Windows Server 2003 one out of the archive. I'm sure none of you have that one on your desk. Not a big seller, you know, probably. But anyway, I did receive my 20th MVP last July. That was quite a, that was a big one for me. I don't know if you're familiar with the MVP thing, but they send you every 5 years a blue disc. So now I have the 5, 10, 15, and the 20 blue discs. So that was a big one for me. From 2014 to 2020, I worked for a company where I got to travel the world. So I've been to 35, 40 countries, being able to speak and actually help organizations throughout the world. That was a great experience. The one thing that I can say about Active Directory throughout the world, it's the same thing everywhere. The exact same problems, no matter where you go. Everything is the same with Active Directory everywhere. This is a real email address. So please, if you have any questions about Active Directory, group policy, Windows security, or anything else, please shoot them to me. It's part of what I do for my career. I definitely try to help in any way that I can. I have a huge community of people that I can ask questions to. So please utilize me. I'm always on LinkedIn. So please take advantage of that. So without further ado, I think it was last year, I posted this on LinkedIn. And I basically just said, hey, how many of you feel that you can actually secure your Active Directory environment? 18% were confident, very confident, or 100% confident that they could secure Active Directory. This is last year. 24 years into Active Directory being around. That is not a good number, okay? But this is the reality of where we are. Even though Active Directory hasn't changed at all in 15 years, the world doesn't feel confident that they can secure Active Directory. But what is the number one target for attackers? It's Active Directory. I mean, 2 hours ago, I sat in another session where he was talking about his pen tests, and what was he attacking every single time? Active Directory. It was the number one target. Every single time it was Active Directory. So we really have to see how we can secure Active Directory. And I'm probably going to shock some of you with some of the things I'm going to talk about with Active Directory, because I truly feel we can secure Active Directory. We know exactly what to do. It's not rocket science. I mean, it's been around now. It's coming up on its 25th year anniversary. And Microsoft isn't going to change it anymore. If it's up to Microsoft, what do they want to do with Active Directory? They want to get rid of it. They wish it were gone completely. They don't want to support it anymore. Okay? So they're not going to change it anymore. Group policy, they want it dead. There is no group policy team anymore at Microsoft. There's no more group policy team. It hasn't been for over 10 years. Okay? All of my buddies, when I was a group policy MVP, all of them no longer have an MVP. Because there is no longer an MVP program for group policy. So there's no more team. There's no more support for group policy. Okay? It's all dead. So let's talk about really what attackers are doing, because we know what attackers do. Attackers do the exact same thing every single time in an enterprise, okay? And they're going after Active Directory, right? So it's the same every time, right? They have target recognition. They determine what are we gonna go after, right? Phishing, and they go after exploits, right? It's the same. Phishing, still number one. Why? Well, there's end users, right? If we could get rid of users, make our job pretty easy, right? We'd still get attacked because, well, we have those other administrator types, right? Right? We have the initial entry point, which that's a myriad of things, right? It's not always the same thing because the attackers can get in a variety of different ways. Because we have vulnerabilities that aren't patched and we have misconfigurations that aren't configured correctly. So there's a variety of things and different ways they get in, right? Local privilege escalation. This is a really critical aspect, right? Now, when I talk to different groups, this is a real eye-opener for many different groups, okay? And this is a key part of this graphic because this is a pivotal part of the attack chain that most people do not understand. The attacker needs local privileges on a device for them to move forward. Okay? This doesn't mean they have privileges in the enterprise. It just means they have privileges on a device. And why do they need privileges on a device? Well, there's two reasons. One, they need to install something on that device, an application, so that they can enumerate other things on the network. And often, to install those applications, they have to have privileges to install the applications. Okay? Two, attackers need to enumerate credentials off of the device that they've breached. And in order to get into the device, the cache, to get those credentials, they need privileges. Because the next step, once they get the privilege or once they get the credentials, is they're going to move laterally to the next device and use those credentials to get the credentials off of this device. And what they're doing is they're gathering as many credentials as possible in hopes that the admin actually logged on to one of these devices so that they actually don't have to do any type of attack to get privileges for domain admin. That's the goal. So this is a really important part, is the local privilege escalation. Because if I can get a domain admin without any hacking, that's fantastic. And what I try to tell organizations and administrators is you cannot break tiering. You have to stick with tiering. Tier 0 cannot log in outside of tier 0. But what do I see all the time? I see admins logging on everywhere. Why? Because they're lazy. And they feel like I should be able to do this because I'm an admin, right? Their ego is so high, I'm going to do what I want to do. And they do it all the time. But what do I see every day in the news? Company A, Company B, Company C was breached. And I'm never surprised. Never surprised. And they're all big companies, aren't they? Government, military, huge organizations that supposedly have the best security. Well, those administrators have the biggest egos. Okay? So, they get local privileges. Then they go and they want to see as much of the network as they can. Because they want to know, what am I going to attack? And then they're going to move laterally. Then they're going to use those credentials against everything on the network. And then they're going to get privileges and Active Directory and it's game over. Okay? It's the same pattern every time. It is not new. Okay? So, here, this is all about the endpoints. This is where they're entering. Okay? Here, this is Active Directory. We need to secure this part. Now I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit, okay? In the industry right now, and it's been going on for a long time, I hear all the time vendors talking about, I want tools that are going to detect and they're going to recover. Isn't it too late? Right? I mean, detection means what? The problem's already happened. I mean, I have two visions, right? Here's vision one. I'm driving down the road and I hit a wall. And OnStar comes on and says, you just hit a wall. Isn't that too late? Wouldn't it have been better if OnStar comes on and says, warning, in 100 yards, if you don't veer, you are going to hit a wall. That's not detection. That's prevention. But that's not what most organizations are buying today. They're buying detections. The other thing that comes to my mind is I'm sitting on the beach drinking a pina colada and my phone vibrates and I hit a button and it's a video of a camera in my house and there's 3 guys robbing me and I'm watching them because the sim is showing me that I'm being robbed because it's showing me that I'm done. That's the vision that I have. Why do I care? It's too late. I need to secure this, but we're not. I've worked for so many organizations that are prevention, and organizations say, no. We need to buy this detection stuff. Okay. Then go ahead and buy the detection and disaster recovery. Okay. Let's also talk about recovery, right? If an attacker actually breaches your Active Directory environment, what is the very first thing that they're going to do to that Active Directory environment? Well, I'm going to, yeah, go ahead. Well, but if I'm an attacker and I've breached Active Directory, what do I want to do to the Active Directory? Well, no, I've already breached it. I have domain admin. What do I want to do to make sure that I can get in again? Establish persistence and backdoors. How easy is that to do? Okay? How easy is it to do to make sure that the security operations will never find it? Easy. Okay? Now, if it's easy, how impossible is it to recover and get rid of it?
I would say it's almost impossible.
How, on a scale of 0 to 100, isn't it impossible? Because how long, according to the numbers, does it take for an organization to determine that they've actually been breached? According to the numbers, 180 days. How many of you feel that you can go back 180 days and restore your Active Directory and actually function? There you go. So it's not possible. So how good is restoring Active Directory? It's worthless. It is worthless. Because all you're doing is you're restoring the persistence. So I challenge you, go look up AT&T. In the last 3 years, how many times have they been breached? I think it's up to 7. Okay? Are those new breaches? No. They just came in the back door again. Right? Now, these right here are all the tactics. We know all the tactics. We know all the tactics. Unless there's a new 0 day, we know the tactics. So if we know all the tactics, don't we just need to secure against them? So don't we know how to secure against them? We know the answer. We know every single way to secure Active Directory and endpoints. So why don't we do it? 1, it's difficult. 2, it'll break things. Okay? I can actually secure Active Directory against every single attack. Will AD run? Maybe not. Okay? And that's the reality. That's the reality. So what I have to do is I have to poke holes in it to make it functional. And that's the risk that I'm taking. Okay? And the attackers know it. And they go directly for it. But what's more interesting, so we actually don't look for that. Our Security Operations Center isn't looking for that. I don't know of any SOC that looks for detections around behavior around users that have SPNs. I don't know of anyone. They're looking for logons, bad logons, right? If you go and look at Splunk, right, another challenge. Go look at Splunk's website and look at their Active Directory detections out of the box. There's 10 to 15 of them. They're all pathetic and worthless. They don't tell you a darn thing about security and Active Directory. It's worthless. Why don't we actually care about what we're looking at? If we're actually going to use detections, let's look at stuff that's worth something, but we don't. So I think we need good prevention and good detections. if we focus on what is truly important, now we have good core security. We say we're going to, but I don't think we do. I've been working for security companies for the last 20 years. And organizations aren't doing what we should be doing. I think we need to flip the script and actually do it. I really do. And it's not that difficult. Okay? So, where should we focus? We're going to dig in. We're going to actually look at the settings. I'm going to show you Active Directory. We're going to pull the settings out. Okay? First, I know it's basic, but we're going to talk about why we're going to talk about privilege groups. Okay? I talk with a lot of admins, and I talk with a lot of auditors. Okay? Not a really good conversation. Any auditors in here? Auditors. Good, let's talk about them. Okay? Auditors drive me nuts. Auditors come up to me and go, hey, Derek, what settings should I look at to secure Active Directory? That is the stupidest question. It's not like 4 settings. It's the abyss. Active Directory is difficult, okay? It's not easy, right? So when we go in and we start looking at actual Active Directory, right? I mean, I got a bunch of default groups that I have to worry about. Default groups, domain admins, enterprise admins, group policy create owner. I got the administrators. I got DNS admins. I got all of these default groups. Do you know that most auditors only look at those groups? And when I challenge them, I'm like, these are the only groups you're looking at? Yeah. Well, what about the Exchange groups that are created when you install Exchange? Oh, I never thought about that. Really? How about SharePoint? How about the backup groups for the backup product that you install? Oh, I never thought about that. It just drives me nuts. So the reason I'm talking about privilege groups is every single organization needs to take the time to create a list of all privileged groups. And then you have to audit them. And then you have to monitor them. Okay? And I have 3 categories of privileged groups. Default, application privilege groups. Those are the groups that are created when an application is installed, right? And you can't rely on the name of it, right? Because it may create some weird name of a group. So what do you have to do? What I would do is I would actually reinstall it in some sandbox and look at the groups that are created, okay? Or go to the website and look at it. And then you have services. When a service is installed, it'll sometimes create a bunch of weird groups. So applications, services, and default. All right? Document them, go in, ridicule them, so spit them out, make sure that they're least privilege, right? Get rid of users that shouldn't be in there, and then monitor them. Throw them into your SIM and make sure that you monitor them, or throw them into whatever tool. This is where I truly believe you need an Active Directory monitoring tool. I think you need a dedicated Active Directory monitoring tool. Why? Because your SOC team shouldn't be worrying about what's happening in Active Directory. They have everything else to worry about. And a dedicated Active Directory monitoring tool, super simple to set this up and just get alerts when it happens. There's a ton of them out there. Pick one. Pick an easy one. Okay? Pick a cheap one. There's a ton that are cheap and easy to set up. All right? Now, you also need to make sure that you set them up to actually look at recursive, right? So make sure that the tool that you pick can look at the group membership recursively. Because you need to look at groups within groups within groups down, all the way down to the users. Right? So you can do it with PowerShell. I would pick a tool because the tool is much easier and you don't have to worry about the alerting and all the other stuff, okay? All right. Next, primary group ID. This is a blast from the past, but it's important, okay? Primary group ID is probably not a setting, an attribute that anyone has thought of in 20 years. But guess who has thought about it in 20 years? The attackers. Okay? Now, if we dive in and look at this, right? So I'm going to jump back into AD here. I'm going to come over to, I think, Maximus. And right here, right, primary group, and right here's the description. There is no need to change the primary group unless you have Mac clients or POSIX compliant applications. I'm sure some of you have never even heard of POSIX compliant applications. And I'm sure none of you still have POSIX compliant applications. But here's the issue. Some of you, your organizations used to have POSIX compliant applications back in 2001 to 2005. And since you used to have one, you used to have users that had the setting, okay? So it's the year 2003, and you had users that had to have this configuration, okay? So it's 2004, the user still has it. It's 2005, it's 2006, it's 2007, and you get rid of the POSIX compliant application. It's 2008. Did you get rid of the setting? Or does it still have the POSIX compliant setting? Of course it does, because you don't care, but you just got rid of the application. So now it's 2018. Does it still have the setting? Of course it does. This is the problem. So you went on and the user still has the setting. Now let's talk about the setting, right? So I'm going to come in here to the attribute editor. And I'm going to come down here to the primary group ID. And right here, you'll see it says 512 and it says RID admins. Okay? So it's an admin RID. RID stands for relative identifier. So this is the RID, which is the end of the SID, the security identifier. 512 is the RID for which group? Anyone know? Domain admins, okay? So if I come over here to users, and I go to domain admins, and I go to my attribute editor, and I come down here to object SID, and I come over here, look at what it ends with, 512. So my user has a primary group ID associated with domain admins. So in essence, my user is a domain admin. So all the attacker has to do is query, show me, see if I have that, show me primary group ID, right? Show me all of the users that have a primary group ID not set to the default. Boom. There we go. Super simple. So now we're gonna come full circle with this, right? Now my attacker has breached one computer. All they have to do is run a simple PowerShell query and find out every user that's attackable. Do you see how simple this is? Super simple. Now they have the secret decoder ring on exactly which accounts to go after. Now, so now I want you to go back to that diagram that I showed you. Now we go back to that fourth spot, which is local privileges and credential mining. If they know which users have 512, every machine that they get credentials for, they're looking for those accounts. Because if they actually get one of those accounts from one of the local boxes, they're done. Yes.
Holy cow.
Okay, if everyone hear that, the question was, can I run these PowerShell commands as a standard user? Yes. Why? Why can I run these PowerShell commands as a standard user? Well, let me show you why. Right here at the top of Active Directory, Microsoft had to give every single user read access. Can you get rid of that? Don't try it. Okay? Remember, some of you do, remember that game show, Name That Tune? This is destroy that Active Directory. I can destroy Active Directory in one click. If I get rid of that and I hit OK, no one can read Active Directory, even the domain admin, even the built-in administrator. You're done. How do I know? Well, I used to train auditors, and there was always one in every class that misread the lab. And they'd go in and go, click, oh, I can't access it. And every time. Okay? All right? So what I recommend is all these things that I'm showing, they're super simple. Run the PowerShell commands and see who has these settings. And just set them back. We don't need these settings anymore. Get rid of the primary group IDs. Okay? SID history. Okay? SID history is an attribute that's used during migrations. So when I migrate a user from one domain to another domain, I actually create a new user. Well, a new user has a new SID. So during the migration, the user has to go to the other domain. So what I do is I have a SID history associated with the new user. So I put the old SID in the SID history attribute of the new user. So it's the SID that they used to be known as, so that when they go across, hey, oh, I remember you. You used to be known as this SID, and they now have access. Well, what if I've never gone through a migration and I have users that have SID history? Does that sound like a problem? Yeah. So what I recommend is go through and see if any users have SID history. And if you've never had a migration, you probably have been attacked. Or if you've gone through a migration and you've actually gotten rid of the old domain, get rid of SID history. You don't need it anymore. Because if I'm an attacker, what I'm going to do is I'm going to inject SID history, because you probably aren't looking for that. You're not monitoring for it. You're not looking for it. And what I can do is I can inject the administrator's SID on top of any user, and I can go around and do whatever I want as that other user, and no one knows that I'm there. This is a fun one. AdminSDHolder. AdminSDHolder is a default object in Active Directory. Every Active Directory has this object. It lives here under system. Right there it is, AdminSDHolder. Okay, let's decrypt what it means. Admin, administrative. SD stands for security descriptor. Okay, AKA access control list. It's a permission list. All right, holder. It holds the access control list for all administrative accounts. It is the template. Okay? So if I go and look at this, I know what every single administrative account's access control list looks like. This is the template. Which administrative accounts? The defaults. Domain admins, enterprise admins, even the administrator account. The 500 SID. Okay? Notice I've injected a couple of wacky ones, Clio and Help Desk. Those aren't defaults, right? So that means if I go to domain admins, I should see those there, right? So if I go to domain admins, and I go to the security, there's Clio and Help Desk. I did not put those there. There is a process called SD prop, security descriptor propagation, that runs every hour and double checks those groups against AdminSDHolder and says, oh, do you match? Oh, if you don't match, sorry, I'm gonna write over you and I'm gonna make you match to make sure that they match. So if I'm an attacker and I want to make sure that my entries are on every administrative account, what do? I modify AdminSDHolder. And I can make sure that I am on the access control list of every administrative account. Okay? But the key here is I want to put in wacky entries, right? Because what I want to do is I want to put maybe a group that looks weird and funky on there. Because I don't want to put my name on there. That would be obvious. And here's a challenge for all of you. I see this probably in, I'm going to say 9 out of 10 installations. You know what I see on AdminSDHolder almost every time? Exchange admins. And people will go, huh, we haven't had Exchange since 2010. Yeah, and you didn't remove it. And so what I can do is I can put myself in Exchange admins. It looks normal. And now I'm on every administrative group. So go clean things up too. You have to clean things up. You have to maintain Active Directory. Okay? Now, the way that you audit this, the way that you look at this, right, is there is a built-in command on domain controllers called ACLs. You can also put it on your workstations if you install RSAT, the Remote Server Administrative Tools, right, called ACLs, Directory Service Access Control Lists. And what it does is it dumps out the access control list for whichever path you put in Active Directory. So it's an LDAP path. So here I have, well, this is USA. So right here is AdminSDHolder. We'll do this one. So what you do is you run it, and then you just go through and make sure that the correct entries are here. Otherwise, it's kind of a mess to actually go through the GUI to look at it. Okay. All right. Next, Kerberos delegations. There are actually 4 levels of Kerberos delegations. The worst is unconstrained Kerberos delegation, okay, which is the top setting, which is what that's set to. Trust this computer for delegation to any service. Now, if you go out to the internet, it's going to tell you the way to secure it is set it to constrained. It's not really correct, okay? Because if you set it to the next level, which is constrained, it really doesn't secure it. If you set it to the next level, which is also constrained, it really doesn't secure it. Because there are attacks almost at every level of this. Now, it gets more secure, but there are still ways to attack it. Okay? But it does become more secure. But this is a really bad implementation. This is all about Kerberos. This is attacking the Kerberos authentication protocol. Okay? And there's no way around it. Because what I can do is I can attack this, and now I can impersonate the machine that has this configuration. And normally the machine needs this configuration when it's running a service. So when I install a service on a server, when I install the service, it ticks this box so that this machine can communicate correctly on the network because it's running the service. So what I recommend is that you go in and you run the PowerShell commands to know when it's running unconstrained Kerberos delegations. Okay? And then try to get it to a more secure constrained level. Or if it doesn't need it, just get rid of it. If you don't need any delegations, get rid of it completely. SPNs, service principal names. Okay? When I install a service, and that service needs a user account, a service account, that service account that is associated with that service will have a service principal name associated with it. Okay? Because that user account has an SPN associated with it, it now has certain capabilities. Unfortunately, it also behaves a certain way on the network in a bad way. Okay? And one of the things that it will do is it will give up its TGS ticket, which is a bad thing. Because now if I get its TGS ticket, I can take it and I can actually get the password from that. So the idea here is you never want to give a service account that has an SPN privileges. But of course, what does almost every service account need? Privileges. So this is where you get in and you have to now go in and say, okay, my service accounts, if they need privileges, I'm going to make sure that they have a really long, strong password. And I'm going to limit them, right? I'm going to limit their configurations. I'm going to go in and do certain configurations. I'm going to make sure that I secure them. I'm going to monitor them. I'm going to throw them in a PAM. I'm going to do all these other configurations around them. And this is primarily why you want to do that. Okay? The way that you verify or that you check is I can come in here and I can get a list of users, or my users that have SPNs. There it is. Right? Run a PowerShell command and I get a list of users that have SPNs. If the user doesn't need an SPN, get rid of it. Definitely get rid of SPN users. Take away the SPN. Because it will cough up information. There's no way to stop it. It is impossible. It is built in to the behavior of the account to give up information. Okay? So, you've probably heard throughout the day in different talks about Kerberosing. This is Kerberosing. All right. Now, you will notice when I ran that, there was one particular account there, I'll go back to it, which it displayed. So Maximus, you'll see here, has SQL as an SPN, and then also it shows this KRBTGT. KRBTGT is a built-in account. This is the Kerberos ticketing account. Every Active Directory environment has this user account. It is required. This is the user account that Kerberos uses to give out the Kerberos tickets to users when they authenticate. So I can't get around this. This is needed for Kerberos to function. And it has an SPN. So we're going to have to really secure this account. Okay? So I think it's next up on the list. We need to make sure we secure this account. So one of the things we have to do is we have to constantly change this password. Microsoft used to say you had to change the password every 2 years, and then they changed it to every year. Now, change it 2 times a year. Really protect this password. Really protect this account. Because if this account gets jeopardized, it's game over, right? This is the root of a golden ticket attack. So I used to work for a company that could detect a golden ticket attack with precision. There's a lot of companies out there that say they can detect a golden ticket attack. Microsoft, there's some other ones out there that say that they can detect a golden ticket attack. Again, we talked about this detection thing, right? If you're detecting a golden ticket attack, guess what? You might want to update your resume. Okay, it's a bad thing. Okay, it's game over, right? But this is a golden ticket. I mean, you're done. You can do anything they want in the environment, right? It's actually almost beyond domain admin because it is domain admin. Okay. The one thing about this behavior of resetting the password is you have to do it twice. Because it actually caches the last password. So you actually have to change it twice consecutively. Right? So this is kind of a royal pain to do this. If you go out and you search on this, Microsoft has a PowerShell command that will actually do it for you. So there's some help here for this if you go search on this. But this is something that you need to look at. So what I have here is the command to go look at when the last time the password was changed, so you can verify this. So make sure the password is changed often, and just put this in the normal processes in your environment. Active Directory root permissions, okay? This is, I don't even know how people come up with this stuff, but at the root of the domain, there are 2 permissions that someone needs in order to synchronize the users and the hashes of the passwords. Okay? This is a DC sync attack. So if I have these two permissions, replicate directory changes and replicate directory changes all. Just these two. I can use a tool called Mimikatz, and I can synchronize the users and their password hashes by spinning up a fake domain controller and telling a real domain controller, hey, I'm out here, would you synchronize with me? And it'll say, sure. And it will synchronize the users and the password hashes. And now that I have them, I can go crack them offline. And now I have the passwords for all the users with two permissions. So verify that these two settings have the correct users associated with them. Okay. Again, if you go back to ACLs, now you can go to the root and make sure that the correct users have permissions at that particular level. Now, I showed you a ton of PowerShell commands, right? If you want these PowerShell commands, all you have to do is email me. I gave you my email, and I'll send you a list of the PowerShell commands, okay? You can also put them all together, right? Last year, I put this together, right? This is a massive, not massive, a pretty lengthy PowerShell commandlet that basically does it all. It goes in, it pulls out everything we need out of Active Directory. And then puts everything in a nice, neat bundle of files. As I said, we know exactly what to pull out. Trust me, I'm not a coder. If I can do this, anyone in here can do this, probably 10 times faster than I did it, okay? We know exactly what we need to pull out. So this is the preventative piece. All we need to do is go and see what is misconfigured in our Active Directory environment and then go secure it to the best of our ability. What we can't go and secure, start monitoring it. Okay? We just need to monitor it. There's some great tools. If you want to know the tools, I'll tell you afterwards. Okay? They're cheap. I mean, probably your petty cash can pay for them. And I'm serious. They're really cheap and really easy to customize, no matter how many domains you have. Okay? So I have time for a couple of questions. Any questions? Yes? Right there. Any other questions? Yes?
But is Enter ID or Active Directory still have the same issues, or do we have to look at?
Great question. So the question is, does Azure AD/Entra ID have the same problems? No. It has its own problems, just as long, maybe longer. And I'm totally serious. So the way that I look at it is Microsoft went into a totally different room, forgot that Active Directory existed, forgot all the things that we should have learned about Active Directory, and started working on Entra ID and created their own problems in a totally different silo. Because it has its own, I mean, think about it this way. One of the major problems with Entra ID is the guest account. It's enabled and has more problems with the guest account in on-prem AD. I just don't understand. It's crazy. Yes?
In the beginning, you said that Microsoft wishes that there was more Active Directory. Why is that? Why are we still using
Great question. So Microsoft wishes that on-prem AD would completely go away. Microsoft wishes that every physical box in existence that runs an OS would go away, because they make so much money on virtual. They do not want any more physical ever. They don't want to patch anything. I can't imagine how much money Mark Rusinovich makes every day as the CTO of Azure. Just unbelievable. Yeah, they want everything in Azure, everything virtual. Any more questions? Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Email me. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day and a good day tomorrow. Enjoy the weather.